Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Legal Tender. I am back in the building. I'm back in the vault. Pulled out some notes to make a new video. As always, I want to big up and salute everybody for supporting the channel. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, I love the comments. I love the banter. Let's keep that going. If you're a fan of numismatics, if you're a fan of paper currency, if you're just getting into the hobby, stay rocking with me. Stay rocking with the channel. Every Tuesday is Legal Tender Tuesday, and I'll be making a new episode every week, speaking about something different, interesting, or new within the realm of numismatics. Questions, comments, input, put it down in the comment section. I respond back to everything as soon as possible throughout the video. If I say something that is slightly askew, let me know via the comments. I hit the books to make sure that I have the right information moving forward. All right, so with that being said, let's get into today's episode. All right, so today I will be speaking about blue seal notes. So I pulled out some silver certificates because silver certificates got blue seals. But be forewarned, not all silver certificates have blue seals or blue serial numbers. So I'll talk more about that in a minute. All right, so like I said, speaking about blue seals, but the majority, I'm gonna say 8 times out of 10, if it got a blue seal and a blue serial number, it will be a silver certificate. I'm positive that there are 2 currency types. There are 2 forms of silver certificates that do not have blue seal or blue serial number. So be mindful of that. But as always, the currency type will be up top. Silver certificate. Speaking about blue seals. All right, so blue seal silver certificates. U.S. silver certificates, they were first printed in year 1878, with the small size silver certificates being printed in 1928 until 1964. The Treasury seal and serial numbers were printed in blue. Not all of them, though. Like I said, 8 times out of 10, that's true. So Treasury seal and serial numbers were printed in blue and were printed in 3 denominations. And the 3 denominations are, all right, so let's get this together. So we got the $1 denomination, and the different denomination types in regards to the design. We got a $5 denomination, a $5 note. Different designs as well to the obverse side. And we have a $10 note. So silver certificates came in the following denominations: 1s, 5s, and 10s. And the last silver certificate that was printed in 1957. So these certificates were backed by the U.S. Treasury stockpile of silver bullion until 1968 and could be redeemed for their value in silver as stated on the obligation on the obverse side of the note. Now, I have an episode speaking about obligations, the evolution of the obligation, and obligation by currency type. So to get a little bit more information about the obligation, go back, check out that episode. But I ain't finna do a deep dive. I'm just do a summary of the obligation. So an obligation is a binding contract between the government and the individual of the note. And the obligation is all the wording that is on the obverse, the front side of the bill. So it'll be up top, down here, and to the right. And the obligation on this silver certificate states that up top, this certifies that there has been deposited in the Treasury of the United States of America $1 silver payable to the bearer on demand. So $1 silver, $5 silver, or 10, depending on the denomination of the note. And this right here, it reads that this certificate is receivable for all dues and when so received may be reissued. So this is pretty much stating, this right here is stating that this isn't a one-time use. If you incurred a debt with someone, you could offer this to them to settle that debt, or if someone has a debt with you, they could hand this note to you to settle that debt. And regardless, if you receive it to settle a debt, it can be reissued to pay the debt that you incurred. So it's not a one-time use. And the obligation changed based on the series year. So this was series year. As always, you can find the series year to the bottom right or to the top left of the note. And we have a series year of 1928B. And we see the obligation right here. Now let's look at 1934. The obligation at the top and the bottom still holds true, no change there, but this right here changed a little bit. So this right here states that this certificate is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So the wording was changed because the implication of that this note, that this note not being a one-time use was kind of known. So the whole can be received and reissued, that part was taken out. And also it saves a little ink. With the 1928, it has 3 lines, and with the 1934 it has 2 lines. So again, it's less ink being used, and it's a overall understanding that this note isn't a one-time use. So, and that was the change from the 1928 obligation to the 1934. The series years that came with these notes. All right, so the silver certificate, like I said, it came in 3 denominations, 1, 5, and 10. And the series years for these notes were 1935 here. The series years, it started in 1928 until 1928E, 1934, and that was the introduction of the blue numeral on the silver certificate. 1935 and 1957 until 1957 until 1957B for the $1 denominations. For the $5 notes, 1934 again introduced the blue numeral for all denominations, the 1, 5, and 10. So we had the 1934 to 1934D, 1953 to 1953C. And let's look at the difference on this design as well. I'll break those down in a second. 1953A. And for the $10 denomination, it started with 1933 to 1933A. Again, 1934 was the introduction to the blue numeral, and it was 1934 until 1934D. 34A right here. And the final was the final series year printed was 1953 to 1953B. Now going back for a moment, looking at the different designs on the obverse of the note. All right, so what we have here, all right, got a 1928. Now let's look at a 1934. So we got a 28 up top and a 34 at the bottom, and obviously you can see the similarities and the contrast. The portrait's still the same, the dimensions are the same, because The dimensions got changed with the introduction of the 1928 series. It got smaller. But we see that on the 28, we have the treasury seal to the left of the note. And on the 1934, the treasury seal got moved to the right side of the portrait. It also added the numeral 1 on the left side, because with the treasury seal moving over here, it freed up some space. So they had a numeral right there. The obligation changed a little bit, and the treasury seal transitioned from the left to the right side. And also we had the treasury seal being engraved over the word that is the denomination of the note. Now transitioning over to the next series year, which is series year 1935A. Again, similarities and differences. Okay, so the treasury seal remained on the right side. The color was taken off on the 1935 series, and also the size of the numeral got reduced a little bit. I don't know the exact dimensions, but this blue numeral is a little larger than the one at the bottom, the colorless numeral. Also, the treasury seal got smaller as well. $1 was spelled out and added above the seal, and not having the seal over the word of the denomination of the note. And the same can be said about the $5 note as well. So as we see, blue up top, colorless at the bottom, large treasury seal and large word 5, smaller treasury seal and small word 5. Let's see if we can see that a little bit. Still working on the lighting and the glare, so apologies for that. But yeah, hopefully you can see that at the bottom, the treasury seal in the word 5 is smaller than the one up top. And this is 1934 and 1953. $10 notes. I don't have anything to compare that to, so. All right, let's keep going. All right, so those were the series years that was printed. These notes are now obsolete. Silver certificates are obsolete and have been abolished, and that is due to the Act of June 4th, 1963. And what the Act of 1963 is, some may call it the Silver Act of 1963, and what that is, it is PL 88-36 was signed into law June 4th, passage of administration. And what that means is that the decision-making abilities was passed down from the president to the secretary of the treasury. So pretty much like, all right, well, since you're the head dude of the treasury, I authorize you to make decisions in the best overall interest of the United States monetary system. And with the Secretary of Treasury now having that responsibility and that authority, backed silver legislation in 1963, the gradual elimination of silver backing from U.S. paper currency, and marked an end to policies adopted in 1933. So long story less long, what they were saying is that silver would no longer be redeemable with these notes. So the redemption clause, because going back to the obligation, and you read, it was deposited in the United States Treasury X amount of silver pieces. For this note right here, 5 silver pieces, and it is payable to the bearer on demand with this note. So you could take this note to the Treasury building and tell them that you want 5 silver pieces. Because of the Silver Act of 1963, the Treasury no longer had to abide by this obligation. So you lost the ability to transfer this note for silver pieces or silver bullion. And that came with the Silver Act of 1963. And then to support that even further, with the Congressional Act of June 24, 1968, the U.S. Treasury had deemed this is the final date on which the certificates could be exchanged for silver bullion. And that was on June 24th, 1968. You could no longer take these notes to the Treasury to get silver. Okay. So that is that. There are different, I already spoke about the images, the designs, the different designs on the obverse of the note. There was different types of silver certificates. Pull those out. With series year 1935A, there were these notes called the experimental notes. I'm not going to get too much into this right here because I have a previous episode speaking about experimental notes. But again, another quick little summary. So during World War II, I cannot recall off memory the exact date, but you can always reference the series year. And the series year isn't when the notes were printed, it was just when the design was adopted. All right, so these are 2 experimental notes. At some point, the United States Treasury, they wanted to increase the longevity and the livelihood of paper currency. So what they did, they wanted to conduct an experiment. So they did, and it started with series year 1935. They had a different type of paper, and that S identifies that this was made with special paper, and the R identifies that it was made with regular paper. So what they did, they printed both of these notes, one with regular paper, one with different paper, and they put the notes into public circulation just to track the durability of the notes. The experiment came up inconclusive because of people hoarding the notes because of the bright S and R. They stood out. So it was a failed experiment, but an experiment that was conducted by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing nonetheless. And like I said, I have an episode speaking about these experimental notes. So if you want to know a little bit more about these notes, go check out that episode. Other notes that are silver certificates. There were another time during conflict, they had these notes that are referred to as emergency currency. Boy. So these emergency currency notes, it was 2 types. It was a North African note and a Hawaii note. And the North African notes can be identified with this yellow treasury seal. Now, again, see up top, silver certificate. They got a blue serial number, but a yellow treasury seal. And I got an episode speaking about these North Africa emergency currency notes. Again, these notes came in 3 denominations as well. They came in 1, 5, and the 10. And the other emergency currency was this Hawaii overprint note. Again, let's check up top, silver certificate. But unlike the typical silver certificate, it does not have a blue treasury seal or blue serial number, unlike the North African note, which had a blue serial number and a yellow treasury seal. These Hawaii notes are different because of the brown seal and brown serial number, and Hawaii being overprinted twice in the front and once going across the back. These notes were printed in 4 denominations. It was 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s. But the $1 note is the only note that is a silver certificate. The 5, 10, and 20 are Federal Reserve notes. I do not have an episode on Hawaii notes as of yet, but I will be making one soon, speaking a little bit more about these Hawaii notes. So stay tuned for that. All right, fun facts. What do we have for fun facts today? I'm doing all this in one take. I'm not stopping at all. All right, so fun facts. I've been saying fun takes. Fun facts. What we got? Pull these notes out because I don't think I'm doing too bad. No editing, no production team, no nothing. It's all me. All right, so with these silver certificates, $1 denominations are you see the difference in the design on the front, but if you turn them over on the reverse, these notes are called funny backs because of the design. Funny backs was only printed from 1933 until 1935, and you could only find them on the 1928 series and 1934. Now we got this 1953, and this is the design that we are used to seeing. Okay, what else we got? We have fun facts. Hawaii overprint notes. There's 4 denominations, with only 1 being a silver certificate. The 5, 10, and 20 are Federal Reserve notes, and they have a distinct color in regards to the Treasury seal and serial number, which is brown. In Hawaii being overprinted 3 times, once on the back and twice in the front. And then we have these North Africa emergency currency that are silver certificates with blue serial numbers, but yellow treasury seals. Okay. Finna get out of here. That's one take. Tell me what you think. Silver certificates. That's all we got. All right, till next time, keep it legal, keep it tender. Talk to you soon.